Hey, morning YouTube. I'm just waking up. I finally got a day off here, and gonna try to start doing my engine build. So one thing I gotta do is get my tools all together here, and I'll throw that in my car. And mostly I think I'll just need my socket set, my gloves, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do next here. All right, you're in the shed. This is where I don't have room to work, and all my parts and stuff are fitting in. I need to get my stand and disassemble it enough to where I can get it in my car. I talked to my machine shop, and he's going to let me put my stand in his shop, which will be really cool because this is my first engine build and I don't really know what I'm doing. And so my game plan is to take my tools and my stand over there today and put this back together at a shop and see if I can get some help. I got to put it on, put the engine on those 4 posts right there, the engine block. And I'll show you that when I get there. I'm a little bit concerned because I gotta find my. I think what you're supposed to do is take the transmission bolts. This is just an old transmission I have laying around trying to sell, and that's how I'm gonna hold the engine block onto my stand. So I'm not sure if I got my bolts, and I gotta find them there. Anyway, so that's gonna be step 1. Is I don't know about counting my step numbers, but I gotta get this engine stand tore apart enough to where I can get it into my car, and then hopefully find some bolts. I might already took them over there. I got some stuff already. Most my engine's already been over at the shop, and they hot tanked it and stuff. Hopefully it's already been honed out. It's supposed to be honed out by now. And there's my guard cat checking to make sure everything's okay. Anyways, I'll pick this up as I make progress. Alright, got a. Oops, is this recording? Yeah, I got everything in my car here. I just threw some wrenches in there. Got my toolbox, sockets. Grab some. I like these Ravens a lot. I wish they were blue, but they're a pretty good glove. A little bit expensive, about 14 bucks a box. But those are the best ones I've found so far. Let's see if I can get back here. Got my engine stand. I didn't really have to disassemble it, which was good. I just got it in there, and I put the top part that goes right there. I just threw it in the back there. So now, what's going on here? Got the cat there playing. Anyway, so got this all in the car, and I'm just gonna probably gonna swing by, get a bite to eat, and then head over and see if the machine shop's open yet. And so that's where I'm at. All right, here we are at the machine shop. They were kind enough to let me use. This is my stand. You saw me bring it in. They just said I could use this little corner right here, and some tips on if you have to do this. I've never done this before. The way I did it is I disassembled this part. The blue part comes out. Like if I pull this, you can pull this pin and slide this whole piece off, and this bar comes out too. That's just to help you rotate it around. But what I did was I disassembled, took these nuts off, put these posts on. I had to go to the store and get these bolts. They're let's see if I remember. They're 12 millimeter, and that's not the socket size. That's a 12 millimeter bolt, and I went with, I believe it was 90 millimeters long, and it's a 125 pitch. So I had to run to the store get those, and those would fit in perfectly into this stand. This is just a cheap, I think I got this at AutoZone or something. And I kind of measured the threads with a bolt that I put in there and how deep it needed to go, and this works perfect. So I basically put the blue part on, threaded this in, left it a little bit loose, did that on all 3 pieces. This one's kind of hanging there because I need to get a nut for this size, and again the nut's going to be a 12 millimeter by 1.25. And this is just a bolt I have laying around, and so I loosely put it together, and then I just picked up the whole thing and slid it on the stand, dropped my safety pin in, put my bar in there, and then I kind of pushed these out to the outside and got it kind of squared up, and then I just snugged down all the bolts. And so that's where I got my engine block. Actually, I can show you the beauty of using a stand. See, I'm just going to take my crank here, I can turn it, and you can get all the way around. So I'll be working on this side here. I got to figure out my bearings next. I got a little chart I got to use, and I'll show you that when I get it figured out. So I'm going to use OEM bearings, but each depends on which piston. Apparently the pistons are marked with the numbers, and my crank over there is marked with letters, and I'll use a chart to figure out what bearings I need in which sleeve there. So that's kind of what I got to figure out next. But this was a big deal for me today, getting this put on there. I'm going to use 2 hands to do that. And it seems pretty stable on there. And there's I got a recommendation for this. Is the assembly lube I'm going to go with. Right there. And so that's where I'm at, and this is kind of was my goal today, was get this on the stands, because the days I have off and the days that the machine shop are open, we only usually have one day that's in common. I'm either working or they're closed. Anyways, that's where we're at. Okay, some things I learned today. You know, probably already knew this is like piston 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then there's a stamp right here. Hopefully this will show up on camera. I'll try to steady it. And this one says CBCBB. And just note where the bolt is up here. And what that does for you is use a chart. That's what the bearings on the bottom. I don't want to spin it around, but down there, that's the position of the main bearings. There's 5 main bearings, and I'll show you that here. If you look at your crankshaft, you have 5 center spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's what we're talking about right there. Now, I showed you the code on the block there. That tells you how they machine the block. And right here, see if it'll show up, there's stamps. And this one goes to this side, so that's C. Then you look for the next centerpiece, and there's a 3 right there, and that goes for that one. I might have that backwards, the other one might be a 3 too. And see what I want to show you here. Yeah, we're using the numbers, not the letters. So see how this one says B? That corresponds to that. We're not doing that at this point. We're doing main bearings. See, and this is where the crankshaft goes because it's not in the center. So then we go to the next one, and it says 2, and that goes to the center. Then we skip over, back out a little bit, skip over, and then we want the next center one. In that case, sorry, I think it says it's a 3 something. I can't quite see what it says. And then, you know, we skip over one, and then we go to this one, and the last one looks like, oops, it looks, where'd it go here? Let me back out. I think it says it's a 2, and that goes to that one. So now you know the numbers corresponding to the centered 5 main bearings. And then again, the block is milled by that stamp over here. And then you use a cross-reference chart, and it tells you what color bearings to order. Now for the connection rods, I'm just going to grab one and show you. So things you're looking for on the piston is it says in. That should be for the intake. And the arrow, I'm assuming, oh, it's a little blurry there. The arrow, I assume, points towards the number 1 or the front. And there's where it says in. And if you look down the side here, my machinist, I looked out and he stamped that this came out of cylinder 2. I thought that was on there, but he did that for me. But what you want to see is in the middle. Normally it won't be like that. He just did that for me. Can't quite see it, but there's this, I think it's a 3 or a 2. Can't tell through the camera. But there's either a 3 or 2 stamped on there. I think it's a 2. And see how it splits? So that's how you can tell you get the bottom half and the right half together. Also something to note is I noticed that like they got little oil passages or something right there, and they're offset. So you go through each piston. Like I said, he identified which ones went 1, 2, 3, and 4 for me. But the main deal is if you mix these up, it's not too big of a deal, I don't think, because as long as you get the halves matched up, because each one's stamped where it cuts. See if this one's any better. It's stamped. This I think says 3. And see how it cuts it. It's just happened to be in piston 3. That doesn't have anything to do with it. That's the size bearing. Now you take those numbers that I showed you. These are numbers on the connection rods. And then you come over here, and now we're talking about the connection rod bearings. And these are letters. So this is going to be, I think that says C, goes there. This is a center one, so we're not dealing with it. Go up over to an outer one, and there's a B. And you go down the line. You know, there's a center one, so ignore it. Find this one, get the letter for that. That one's a B. Ignore the center, get the letter, and that one's a B. Now you have the letters here, like, you know, B8, mostly B's and C's for me on my connection rods, which are offset ones. And you come over to the pistons, and you get the corresponding numbers, and you look up at a chart inside your book, and it'll tell you what size bearing to order. And if you did nothing else, if you made a little chart and didn't know what ones to go, you could take that. You know, you said, hey, I got a piston, and it's a number 3, and it's going on to a connection rod B. If you brought that to your Honda dealer, he would be able to look it up and tell you what color you need. So, anyhow, so that's what I spent today doing, was figuring all that out. I was looking in I got my OEM book down there. I was looking in that, checking all that out. Some guys recommended all your orifices, make sure you clean them out even though it's been hot tanked, because sometimes they'll have goop in there. I asked my machinist about that. He says they clean that out for me, so I don't have to worry about that. Anyhow, so that's where I'm at. I'm going to go to Honda next. Oh, on the piston rings, I believe there's 75 millimeters. I think I've seen that somewhere. But unless they hone this, you know, to scuff it up. You can see some scuff marks on there for me. That was very inexpensive to have them do it. And but I didn't oversize these, so I'm going to be able to just order standard. I'm going to reuse my pistons and the rods, and I just need to reorder standard sized bearings, or not bearings, rings. And you'd only have to change that if you told the machine shop you wanted them to make a bigger bore, and if you did that, it would change your compression. You have to do a whole bunch of different calculations to figure it out. This is my first build, so I'm going to keep everything OEM stock as much as possible, just so I don't have to worry about, oh, did I not calculate compression correctly or anything like that. Anyway, so that's what I'm off to do now, is order my rings, my connection rod bearings, and my main bearings. And there's 5 main bearings and 4 connection rod bearings, 1 for each piston. Anyway, so I hope this info, I'm making it for me also, but I hope it helps somebody out there.